Hey guys, welcome to The Writer's Journey. This is the show where we are on the writer's journey together. So thank you for joining us on tonight's ride. Today we are talking about building your book production team. And with us is an editor-turned-author, Martha Carr. So Martha, hey, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, our pleasure. We've been looking forward to this for about a month now. I saw you at 20 Books 50K, and actually your conference, your room was overflowing with people that I actually make it inside. So this is to make up for that. I'm so glad I get to talk to you with Kayleen, with the audience, and to meet you tonight. So thank you very much for coming on.
Absolutely. This is even better.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I get to ask you all questions, and we have our chat. Our chat is blowing up. We've got Guy Anthony DeMarco. We've got Jay Clifton Slater, Rick Partlow, Shadow the Illustrator, and Josh. Josh is here, the boss man. Who else? Bill Frisbee. Yeah, guys, welcome to the show. And Kayleen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. You know, I was at the day job pretty late today, so
I remember day jobs. I remember that.
Yeah, I just got home like an hour ago and rushed to get ready for the show. So that's been my day.
You look fabulous. I love the blue and the blue purple in the hair. It looks so good.
Thank you.
So Martha, a little bit about you. You've written fantastic urban fantasy novels. And they're doing really well on Amazon. I noticed that you are in the top 50 in a number of categories on Amazon, including number 18.
20. Yeah.
And number 18, Kindle eBooks in fantasy, which is huge. So congratulations.
Right. Thank you very much. I know. It shocks me all the time.
Check where I'm at now? I would.
You know, I check it when I see that Craig Martell posts where he is, and it occurs to me to go see where I am.
Yeah, you co-write with a number of authors, including Michael Anderle, who's on the show about a month ago. How did you...
So there's a famous video of Michael Anderle on YouTube where he's, it's pretty new for 20 books. I think there was 300 people in the group, and it might have been less than that. And I'm sitting right by the camera, and he said there were 90 authors, writers, and he said, I'll stay as long as anyone has a question. And only 3 of us stayed, and only 1 of us followed up. That was me. And the others didn't believe him, and they walked out. I mean, you could hear them saying they didn't believe him. That's how I know that. And one day he claims, he said, do you want to start a series? I heard universe, but he didn't stop me. And he joined right in. And so we started the Orsarin universe. Back in March, we realized we had made over $1 million in the universe. And I think we have about 150 books in it now. And it's amazing. I know. Thank goodness I heard universe.
Yes. So was that your first writing experience working with Michael?
Actually, I used to be a writer for the Washington Post, and I was a national columnist on politics, and I've been traditionally published. Michael was where I really became a thriving indie author and changed my ways. And the weird part is, too, I'd never written urban fantasy, and it turns out, at least for now, I mean, this phase, it's where I really belonged. I didn't know how much I'd really, really love it until I was in it. But considering what a nerd I am, I'm shocked that I didn't get there faster.
Yeah, DC Comics, I saw that on your website. You're a big DC nerd.
Right. And my oldest sister, she started me on Star Trek back when it was originally on TV, the first Star Trek. So, I mean, yeah, I started early.
That's awesome. And then this week, you have some news about your publishing this week.
You mean today? So today, P-Brain's Magic came out today. It's book 2 in the P-Brain Adventures, and it's already a bestseller. And yeah, and it's very exciting because this is the first series I've done on my own since I met Michael. And, you know, you always have to wonder if you can do it by yourself. He's the one who said, you need to go find out, go do it, and then started laughing. So
that sounds right.
Yeah, so it's really exciting to see that that it's doing very well, and people are really taking it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thank goodness.
That is
All
awesome.
right. So today's question is perfect for you because you have that background as an editor. You've been traditionally published. You worked at the newspaper. Now you're your own author. We're talking about assembling your own book production team. So how to find that perfect editor that's right for you, how to find the cover designer, the formatter, all of that stuff.
And an admin.
Yeah, and you've been on all the different sides of that kind of team. You've been on other people's teams and you've made your own.
Right. And I do have a team. Shout out to Jennifer and to Grace and to Amanda. Because the more you do, the harder it gets to do it all for yourself. And the bar shouldn't be, if I can do it, I should be doing it. That can actually hurt yourself and hurt the joy of it if you don't reassess from time to time and ask yourself, what can I get someone else to do so that I can do the parts I love? But I have a learning disability. I cannot see numbers very well. Yeah, so every time they go into ROI and that sort of thing, I can't do it. So collaborating at first with somebody was perfect because Michael is a genius at the numbers, and I'm a genius at time management and project management. So you can combine. So in other words, if you have a weakness where you're thinking, I'll never make it because I can't do that, you just need to collaborate with somebody who can do that. And then when you get big enough, you hire someone who can do that. So nothing should be a bar to getting into and being successful. Nothing should be a bar. And if you collaborate, you don't have to start out with all the pennies. You can start out with the time, the talent, and the desire, and the hard work, and the willingness to listen. One of the things that I've seen get in people's way is they want to feel like they're contributing. So they feel the necessity to put in their 2 cents worth. If you're collaborating with someone who, like me and Michael, he's already doing well. So I'm going to just follow his pattern and see what happens. Because I can change down the road. But why not take this ride and just be willing to go and try?
It does make a lot of sense. So through all of that, because when you think about building a production team, there's so many different pieces and whatnot to put together. But, essentially, most people will start with an editor. They've written their story. Now they need to get some eyeballs on it, get it cleaned up, get it to the best that they can. So for an author looking for an editor for the first time, how would you recommend going about it?
So hopefully you've been in Facebook groups, getting to know other writers this whole time. And so, you're kind of building your own group of people that you're going to grow up with. You're all going to progress at the same it's the same pace. I have people like that, and it's kind of fun to do. Well, you find the people who have a similar voice to you. You can kind of tell by their posts, by the way they talk to you, by their stories. And then you ask them about the editors they like. The reason I say that is because there's lots of good editors that won't be right for you, because they will edit to a different voice, and it just may not sound right. For example, I have a lot of humor in my stories, and that may not be somebody else's deal. And I use a lot of pop culture. You need to find somebody who has a similar voice. And the best way to find the right editor for you is to ask the people that you respect who are similar to you, who do they like? And that's the way I do it all the time. And that's the way I find people quickly who I'm compatible with.
All right. So you're in these author groups and you're making connections, you're making friends with other people who are in a similar genre as yours and who write the kind of book that you're looking to write too. And you ask for recommendations and you're looking for an editor who will fit your style. Are there any other considerations we should be thinking about when we get to a working relationship with an editor?
Well, there's budget. You want to find out you don't want to spend your rent money. It's my suggestion. You're free to ignore me, but I don't know that you're going to, it's just very hard to spend the rent money. Shane Silvers, I loved his story. He was working, I think, at a bank, and he decided that he could quit when he made as much as he made at the bank. That's a great way to do it, because he already knew he could pay the bills from the bank, so he's just one for another. So you decide what your budget is, and then you also, are you doing a rapid release? are you going to bank the books before the rapid release, or is there going to be a time element? Are you going to put out a book a month? You need to find an editor who can handle that. I would suggest somebody also who's used to indie authors, because it does seem to be very different tone between traditional and indie. We don't tend to be as literary. I like to say I write recess. I'm here for entertainment. I'm not here to get you to dive deep into your inner sanctum, find out stuff. I get a lot of emails though from people who they got something out of it, and especially since I write humor, actually, I get a lot from veterans who say that they don't need to use their meds as much, or they can sleep better at night because of how much they laugh in the book. That's amazing, but it's just because I'm writing entertainment. So budget, time, and you want to be clear. If someone says to you, I may be able to, I probably can, I should be able to, they didn't actually answer you. That's not a yes or a no. So when somebody says to me, I may be able to do that, I repeat the question, will you be able to do that? And I build time into that. So I don't want anybody to feel like I've got it in my hand. So I try to build extra time in, but I need to know that you can do this. And I do listen for nervousness or not sure. And if that's the case, and this is your only book, and you're investing a lot in this, that might not be the right choice for you.
Mm-hmm. And there's different kinds of editing too. There's developmental, line, and copy.
Correct.
So which one do you normally kind of go for?
At this point, for me, at this point, I don't really need a developmental editor, but I've been writing for 30 years. But a developmental editor when I was new was vital, because, especially when I was new, it was like my brain had to warm up. So the first part was generally not needed. Or I would fall in love with this clever thing that I had written, had nothing to do with the story, really. Or I also, for some odd reason, I really love to slide history into stuff. Really fascinating, but not useful. So it takes a developmental editor who can really point out to you, yeah, that was fascinating, but you're killing the story. Or I remember once I had to move a chapter from the back to the front. Who knows how that happened in my brain, but when you're new in particular, and new is whatever, there's no contest here. So you can be new at 5 years, who cares? But when you're at that stage, a developmental editor could really make you into a strong editor. Part of the reason I am is because I wrote for the Post, and those editors, they're very, very good at what they do. And so that was basically having a developmental editor, but I was getting paid.
Yeah, that would be. So know what kind of editing you're looking for. Are you looking for story structure editing, developmental editing? Are you looking for the sentences to be polished and to be I don't know how to replace, but polished and reworked? And do you need line editing help, or are we just looking for grammar and spelling to be cleaned up? And that would be the copy editing.
And also, it is possible for copy editing if you get it already. They do a very good job of that. If your budget's limited, it'd be that copy editing is what you need most. And you can also form, when I was new, I also formed a small little writers group where we shared a chapter a month, and you sent it ahead of time so people could read it. And that was basically developmental editing as a group. So there are ways, if your budget is small, that you can get around these things. And also writers sometimes get a little isolated, so meeting actual humans in a room can be healthy for us.
It's amazing how that works, especially when you start talking with your tribe. Because I know that was one of my biggest things, is the peopling. But you get around other people who think like you do, who have the same type of ambition that you do.
Yes.
That kind of fear kind of goes away. So I mean, definitely getting into those author groups, those writer groups, and there's even editor groups that welcome just writers as well. And that's for me, that's a one way to oh my God, I'm tripping over all my words tonight. One way to help find an editor. So in your experience, where have you found editors? I may have touched on that a little bit.
Right, and I did that by asking writers who are similar to me, who do you like, why do you like them, and then chatting with them and finding out what other books they've edited, and then I can go look them up, the books, and you just start to get a feel for, but really for me, it's critical to know if they can handle the pressure. Because I put out so many books, I could burn someone out, and I'm really not, I don't want to do that to them, and I don't want to do it to me. And, but it depends on what your needs are. But, you know, if we're talking about people whose money is somewhat, it's still possible to figure out how to do this. And it's the copy editing that you'll probably need to pay for.
So speaking of expenses, like what sort of rates, especially these days, should authors be expecting?
I'd say about 1 penny to 3 pennies a word. 1 cent to 3 cents a word is probably about what it's going for. There are probably people making other deals. Sometimes I think if it goes too low, you may have an editor who's pretty good and they're just starting out. But when you can pay more, I'd suggest you do pay more, so that there's no resentment building up and you honor that you can do this.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be hard to make ends meet as an editor when the prices are too low.
Well, and you know, you want to. It's kind of like you're telling yourself in the universe, "I'm doing better now," and you're not going to act like you're not, and you then benefit the people around you.
Yeah, I love that because we're talking about building a team here.
Right.
So that would be definitely establishing a team and not just that, you know, I'm doing my own thing and I need this one piece from you and I have it now. We're in this together.
But it's also, I mean, you can call it faith or courage or whatever you want, but it's saying, I believe in this. I'm doing well. This is not a fluke. It's going to last. And I'm going to act like that. Because one of the things I found too is as your success rises, you have to take on new skills because you may have always been the person getting the paycheck and now you're the person giving the paycheck. And that takes a different mindset and settling into it and understanding this can be done. And then you want to honor the people around you. So I consider myself the hose. The water flows through me. And I don't want to put a kink in the hose and say, well, they'll take X amount, so let's not rock the boat. If it's not right, then somebody's going to get a raise.
That's good. And then do you have other tips for a great productive relationship between you and your editor, or even you and your cover designer, you and the freelancer that you are establishing a relationship with?
So I always pack in extra time for deadlines so that if somebody gets sick or whatever happens, I'm not frantic, they're not frantic. And like I said, if you don't settle for maybe, probably, or should, you're going to the person will actually give you an answer they can live with. So then you have a communication. Communication is going to be key. And then I'm going to check in when there's still time in case things are taking a left at Albuquerque to see how things are going. And if it's a new editor, I'm going to want to see the first few thousand words to see if we're on the same page before we've done an entire manuscript. And so clear communication, and along the road, not at the beginning and at the end. You don't want to check in with someone every day. You're not their new best friend, but you do want to check in once in a while.
Yeah, definitely check in, see how things are going. Facebook Messenger, I use Facebook Messenger with a whole lot of different clients and authors, and that's great. But you are right about not blowing up the other person's phones.
No. But you want to see a sample. I mean, when you're kind of new for each other, you need to see a sample. Somebody saying, yeah, it's doing great. What does that mean? And so get a sample, look it over, put it down, wait a day, look it over again. Because the first time I look at edits, I always think, what? And then later and think, oh, yeah. And so, give it 24 hours, but get a sample and see if you are meshing, and then go to that long manuscript.
Yeah. I definitely always like to do a sample first, because they're like, okay, well, this sounds great and you can do that. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Give me a sample of these pages and you see if what I'm doing is what you need. Or
right. And I'll pay, and I will personally generally pay for that sample. I don't want anybody doing volunteer work for me. And also, if I get a sample, it gives me an idea too if you really can do this. I mean, if your timeline is the same as mine. Or not.
Good for building trust too, particularly if it's an editor you've met before. You want to get that relationship going well, and you want to give the relationship its best chance of success. So knowing where you're both at in terms of writing and editing is a good start to it.
But if I got the recommendation from somebody else who writes like I do, who puts out books as often as I do, who's worked with the editor, chances are that element of it is going to go pretty easily. But sometimes editors also get sick, so you might want a plan B in your back pocket too. Somebody might get pneumonia, or I had an appendicitis this past month. Actually, it went fairly well, but but things happen, and so. You also are treating this like a business, so knowing who you might turn to if you needed to is not a bad idea.
Very good. And so what if the relationship, for whatever reason, is not working out? So maybe you've gotten the initial edit done or back from the editor, and you're like, whoa, this is not what I expected. This is not what I asked for. Or maybe something's happening in the email communication, and the communication's just breaking down. So for whatever reason, halfway through the project, you're sensing that there's trouble in the waters. What do you do?
I would do an actual phone call or a Zoom chat where we are actually hearing each other and go through it and see if it is a miscommunication that can be fixed. And that's happened, and we've actually been able to figure it out, and the relationship was stronger. So just because it's happening doesn't mean it's not fixable. But if it's really going south, then again, I want to be as clear as I can. And I'll pay for the work that's been done, but I'm not going to it's the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing, hoping for different results. It's a business, and so this is where we're going to part ways amicably. It's not a comment on anyone's abilities. It's that this is not working.
Right. I really like that tip about talking, about giving a phone call or doing a video chat, like this, and talking them out first.
But it requires being clear and not just thinking the question you wanted to ask, or that you told all your friends, but you didn't ask that one person. It requires to actually say it to the one person who can give you the answer, and risk them not liking you or feeling offended. I get my intentions clear beforehand. My intention is not to offend. But if I know that that's where I'm at, then I'm okay asking what I need to ask.
So now that we've kind of dove a little bit deeper into finding editors, what they do, how you can work with them, how they work for you, we're going to cut for a quick sponsor break, and then we're going to jump into cover designers.
Yay.
Ooh. That's really fun stuff to do. And tonight, the episode is brought to you by We Dare, an anthology of augmented humanity. 15 outstanding authors, 15 stories of augmented humanity. All I need is an edge. As long as humans have competed with each other for food, profit, and love, people have looked for ways to get an edge on the competition, how to be better, faster, and smarter than the opposition. With better science and technology, many things are now possible, and there will be many more in the future. Gene splicing will augment your abilities, implants will make you smarter, cybernetic systems will make you stronger. Edited by Jamie Ibson and Chris Kennedy, We Dare is a collection of 15 all-new stories that explores the use of augmented humanity in the near future. From getting a new personality loaded with skills you need for a mission, to nanobots that keep you from being killed, to creating an indestructible tank. Anything is possible. But just because we can augment humanity doesn't necessarily mean we should. And there are cautionary tales inside as well. Along with the good that might be possible, there is also the potential for augmentation to be used for more nefarious ends. Will augmentation make better criminals? What happens when someone with implants has their mind taken over? One thing is certain though, people will dare to augment themselves to get an edge. Our authors dared to write these stories of augmented humanity. Will you now dare to read them? Inside, you'll find Preface by Chris Kennedy, Cade by Christopher Woods, Taming the Beast by Kevin Steverson, Tank by J.F. Holmes, Cradle and All by Quincy J. Allen, Do or Die by Jamie Ibson, Yellow in the Night by Philip Woolrab. I am so sorry, Philip. The Chaos of Well-Seeming Forms by Rob Howell, 40 Aces and a Mule by Luke R.J. Maynard, Imperfect Mind by Jason Cordova, Bagman by Jack Clemens, Come Up Screaming by Kevin Eikenberry, Angel by Robert E. Hampson, To Dust by Marissa Wolf, Now You See Me by Casey Azell, Now You Don't by Josh Hayes.
Ooh.
Click the link. Boy, shall be amazing.
Yay. Good job, Kayleen. That was awesome. Man, these stories sound really good.
Yeah.
Particularly Now You See Me, Now You Don't. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, that was clever. They apparently got together.
Oh yeah. They have this whole thing going on with their stories where apart they're really cool, but if you read them together, they're mind-blowing. That's what I'm told.
Yeah.
Can't wait to read them.
All right. So our next question was about cover designers.
Covers. Yeah.
You can find a good cover designers. And here's how I looked for my cover designer.
Okay.
Went on Amazon. I looked at all the other books in my genre. And I was like, not sure I like those covers. Okay. And then I found the ones that I did like, and they were all traditionally published. Then I went to Instagram. So I did the scatter shoot method where I just kind of looked at all these different book covers and then was emailing people. And I finally got a great one. But it took a lot of time, and I feel like there's a quicker, smarter, better way to do it.
Well, there's a few ways to do it. Again, asking your friends. I mean, asking your fellow authors. I should back up. I started in traditional publishing, and there was not a lot of communication about the everything but the writing. Even though I knew a lot of traditionally published authors, we didn't seem to know that we should be talking to each other about marketing, and so we would all be making the same mistakes if one of us had spoken up as a group, then the others could have benefited from that information. Indie's biggest strength is that we seem to love talking to each other, and we're more than happy to help each other. So, again, it's your pool of friends. You find that cover. Who's that designer? That's where I found some. We found some of our best designers at Comic-Cons. At Comic-Con, there's a lot of hungry artists who have their own comic book. Yeah, I have some great original art from some of them too. And they're just beautiful artists who do these amazing covers and by the way, I can look at a cover and know that person's going to do at least decently off that book. If the book's any good, because the cover is so good. So a cover is super vital. And you can't discount how important it is to get a professional to do the cover. And some of those hungry people at Comic-Cons, you can get a cover for like $300 that they really should be charging more because they're that good, but they're new to it. New to our land is what they're new to. And so
it's that creativity skill.
Yeah, and so let's see, what other ways have we found artists? Fiverr is a good way because a lot of good cover designers who have not built enough people that they need to turn people away. They advertise on Fiverr basically, and if you want a really good cover, then you have to pay more than $5. But it's a good way to just start looking through their portfolio and seeing who you might find. There's Drange Doctors. is a good one that Deranged Doctors, lots of people go to for different genres, and they do very good work. They get booked up, so if you're thinking about them, be very nice to them because they'll be very nice to you if you're polite to them. And I found them because I asked an author friend who did your cover. She told me, I went and asked them. There we go. So really your network that you're going to create, and the people that I kind of started with a year and a half ago, those are still the people that have known me since, when I was still trying to start a universe, and they were trying to start what so it's like kind of like going to college together, and they're the people you're going to stay the closest to. So you don't want to miss out on that kind of fun either.
So
by the way, go ahead.
You're good. No, I was just
gonna say too. I've noticed too that a lot of people don't seem to go and bother to see what the tropes are in their genre. The key elements that are always on a cover. A cover is a sales tool, not an art tool. And so if you're doing something because you think this will be cool, but it'll confuse the reader as to what genre, you're not doing yourself any favors.
So one element we need to think about is, does the potential cover designer understand my genre too?
Absolutely. So I may have a designer who just does beautiful work in urban fantasy, but they're not going to go do sci-fi. And I may see a Michael with this amazing sci-fi cover. I'm not going to ask them, do you do urban fantasy? So different. I think they always say you have to have, well, they call it spaceship ass, but yeah. I don't know if you've heard that on a sci-fi cover. Yeah. So, you absolutely. You want somebody who really gets your genre. And also, I try not to tell a designer what to do too much, because I find when I let their creativity go to a degree, I'm amazed at what I get back.
That's actually a really good comment to what I was going to segue to. So I'm going to backtrack segue. So it sounds a lot like, the basis of building a production team is really starting that network of communication and friendship with, all the people. If you write fantasy, if you write sci-fi, if you write romance, go find those people, talk to them, comment with them, build friendships, and then you can find.
They're the ones you're going to be doing newsletter swaps with. They're the ones who are going to be promoting your book on their site back and forth, and they're the ones you'll probably be doing an anthology with. I mean, they're your class.
And it's the saying's true. It's not what you know, it's who you know, because who you know can know a hell of a lot more than you could ever possibly know yourself.
Well, it's a pool. So I may know this really well, and they may know that. And so, again, it's the strength of indies. It's what the others don't understand. It's our strength is that we don't seem to feel the need to know everything. And we're willing to ask for help and accept help. And so definitely be building a network. And if you do it now too, it's not self-promotion, because you really are trying to make friendships. You're not diving in with your new book at the last second saying, "Hey, hi everyone."
First time here, poster. I have this book. Can we swap? I don't know you.
Yes.
Right. So on with your comment about kind of stepping back from the designer a little bit. How, especially like in the beginning, how do you communicate, that vision to a designer without, overimposing them too much?
So I might say female lead, long dark hair, jeans and a jacket. I mean, urban clothes. I might suggest weapon, and the idea of a background, and whether or not there has to be magic present, like, the ball of light in the hand. I don't know if you've seen my author picture. Have you seen my author picture?
Yeah. I should probably.
One of my cover design I got a photographer to take a picture of me with my hand out, like I could be holding a ball of light. And then a cover designer I used put a ball of light in my hand and made my hair gray like a drow. Yeah, and that's my author photo.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. So anyway, Yes. So I give a cover designer the bare outline, and then yes, exactly. And then I see what they can, I let them go. And it's amazing what I get back. And I always say, I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you very much. I just remember to say, I have mugs done of the covers that fans can buy, and they can also win. I sent one with the cover on it to the cover designer, and she said, and she does a lot of covers, that I was the first person who thought to do it. So
Nice.
just keep that in mind, that this is a human being on the other end, and they probably would appreciate a little, pat on the back besides that paycheck.
Everybody loves presents and thank yous. I mean,
well, and also saying, I really dig your art. That is amazing.
Loved it so much I put it on a mug for you.
That's right. Right.
seems kind of obvious. So let's see, communicating. You kind of already went over that, communicating to save time.
Yeah, but this one, so like imagine you got a cover designer and you loved everything you saw from this cover designer. You loved it all. And you communicate your vision off of the bat and you think everything's going great. And then they come back with the drafts, they're very excited, and then you look at them and you just kind of hate them all. What do you do then?
So
I waste your time or theirs. So
right. And that does happen. That happens to me still too. And so I try to start with the biggest issue. I don't want to hit somebody with a laundry list, because then it seems kind of like, ugh. So let's go with the biggest issue first, and let's solve that. And then I'll start to talk about the tweaking the rest. And we've managed to take something that it was like, whoa, and make it a beautiful cover in the end. And I also have to, again, you might need an actual phone call. And so that I can see where what I'm saying is not what you're hearing. That's probably what's going on, is that they heard one thing, said another. And so we need to figure out where the miscommunication is too. And by the way, I work with somebody in Romania. In other words, English may not be the first language. There may be a lot, the culture may be different, so that a word that I'm saying means something else literally. And, but everything, if you've liked their artwork before, if they've done something for you that you really liked, then this is probably a question of just fixing what's there, not a question of the two of you working together. And that happens all the time where we have to tweak things, where at first you have a moment of what? And then you just have to figure out. You just have to figure out, what do you need to talk about first? And also, by the way, like, let's say the face on it, you're thinking, oh no. Well, it can be swapped out pretty easily. So it's not like this is a big deal either. So just try and keep a perspective that things, and really look at the picture. So is the hair too far back? The more specific that I can be, I've noticed the much more easy this goes. Is the jaw too square? So in urban fantasy, we always are looking for that elven look, whether they're an elf or not. So you want that tapered chin, and a square jaw is great, but might not work for the genre. So you got to be clear. The more specific you can get about what you're not liking, the easier that conversation is going to go.
So you might need a phone call. Sorry, millennials.
Yes.
Be as specific as you can.
Don't hit them with every change at once.
Don't hit them. That's huge. Don't hit them with every change at once.
Yes. Yeah. Thank them for what you are doing. See if you can find one or two things to say that you do like. Hopefully there's one or two things you can point out you do like. So you want to start with that.
Make a sandwich.
Make a sandwich, and take a breath so that you don't come across as, the Titanic is going down, and that this is, so what you've gotten is data, and the data is not going to work. So what do we do in order to make it so that it does work? And remember, it's fixable. This is why too, you don't want a deadline so close to production that you're panicking.
Definitely give yourself wiggle room.
Yeah, sure. Then you can be nicer.
All right. Next. So any last questions about cover designers?
I was just about ready to ask you that. Do you have any last minute
Well,
thoughts
I
that
would,
may have popped up?
yeah, when you're asking about a cover, be sure to ask, when you're asking about price, does it include the wrap for a paperback? And do they include any kind of marketing materials? And can you get I can't remember what the file is called, but the original file, so you can separate out the pieces. You want to know up front, what does that price include? And I find that everybody's different. And treat your cover designer with respect. When they finish, pay them. So again, we're back to budget. When you start, as this is your business, start with a budget. Don't start with, and the budget is not in your head. It's actually written down somewhere.
Know how much money you have to spend and
Stick
work all
to
the
it.
stuff that you need around that. Yeah, I definitely don't.
And be okay with it. Be okay with it that this is where you're starting from. And again, if you like me, if you can't see numbers or your money is limited, collaborate. There's nothing, collaboration's great. And find someone you admire. And if your skills are good, something can be done.
Absolutely. So,
all right. Next question we had was about formatting. So do you format your novels or do you hire someone to do it?
Vellum takes 10 minutes. So it seems silly these days to not just get that sucker in development. And also it gives me so for example, Pea Brain book 2 has art in it. And the art came in at the last second, but soon enough that I could put it in. Because I formatted it, I could slide the art in there. So I like doing it myself because then I can go make changes. Or if somebody, occasionally a fan will say, I found a misspelling, which I appreciate, by the way. You can have 5 editors and there's probably going to be some misspelling in there.
Always.
Yeah, exactly. It's impossible. Well, if I've done the formatting, it's a very simple fix. And Vellum is what, $100 or somewhere in that neighborhood? Am I correct? And then you can format some, yeah, okay. But it's not much. And then you can format books until, 500 books later, done.
So
there's no limit.
Is that a Mac or a PC, or is it interchangeable as far as program?
That's a great question because that is a Mac. That's a Mac software. So that's a great question. And yeah, so you may have to, again, that network of friends. When you're starting out, you be a friend to others, and ask for help. And you're going to work together. And I did a lot of that too in the beginning, where somebody who was in PR, she had a Google spreadsheet on stacked ads that was a thing of beauty that she was willing to share with me, and I shared with her how to start a universe. So, swap your skills.
Right. Yeah, I believe Draft Digital has a similar program to Vellum's, and Draft Digital is free.
Yeah, and I think there's more. The used to write with to outline Scrivener. I think Scrivener is now formatting as well. I'm pretty sure Scrivener now formats. I have not bothered to learn it because I have Vellum.
There you go.
But so yeah, yes. And what's funny too is when I started out as trying to be an indie unsuccessfully, you had to hire somebody, and it took forever. And it wasn't necessary. You had to be careful about dropped sentences and weird stuff that now with the software, boom, you're done. It's amazing. I am that old. My first book came out when the internet was born, probably right around when you were born.
That's really cool, though.
Yeah, and they sent you they were called the blue papers because they were blue because they were going to literally print it, and you had 48 hours to read the whole thing and make changes, and then you had to stick it in the mail and send it back.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, that was a sidebar.
That's so cool. For all the people who are out there just starting down, they're like, everything is so complicated. It has actually gotten a lot easier. You just have to find the ways.
And I know it can seem complicated because of how much social media there is, but I would say pick one or two and get good at those and just ignore the rest. And you'll be fine. Yeah, I would not try, and don't follow the shiny object. I listen because I might hear something I can use, but I also remind myself you can't do everything. And so you pick what you're good at or what you landed on and just work with that.
All right, in the chat, Barda today says, don't use draft digital for PDFs. It will insert random hyphens into your work and change random font sizes. So be careful. Well, but that's true for anything you use. Always look over your proof copy when you got it done. Make sure it's all good.
Proof it.
Guy Anthony DeMarco says, vellum.pub doing books and ebooks runs $250.
Okay.
For vellum.pub. And it's Mac only.
And it's Mac only. They keep making comments about how that'll change, but it has not changed yet.
Yeah, I've heard of that for like 2 years, 3 years now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The PC over here waiting.
Yeah, I'm on a PC and I have a Mac sitting next to me, but it's a used Mac. You can also buy used Macs.
I've been tempted. There's a couple Mac only programs and I'm like, that might speed things up for me, but I would have to buy a Mac first, and that is not my budget. So it's not happening quite. Yeah.
That's where you start to make friends and what skills can you trade. And believe me, that has gotten me super far doing that.
That's true. You can get a friend with Vellum to format your book for you.
Like, hey.
And it won't take them long. Yeah.
Trade slot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
5 minutes, 10 minutes. So speaking about budgeting and finding people to do things that you're not sure if you're strong at, what about blurb writing? How do you find a good blurb writer? Do you find a good blurb writer? Do you write your own? If you are going to find one, where do you find one?
So blurbs, again, like cover, super important and can really, really help a book sail. And a bad one can kind of, it's like a bat to your knees. And so it's not like writing a book. It's a lot harder. It's writing ad copy. I always say it's like you're trying to sell Doritos. Nobody wants to know how the Doritos are made, so don't tell your whole plot. It's really boring. And you do not have to be literal. People get very literal in their blurbs. It's actually supposed to be it's supposed to be engaging. It's either dramatic or it's funny. And if you can get a good short blurb going, you could really sell a lot of books, especially that first hook line. So I would definitely look for somebody who might be who you could pay for a blurb if you really don't know how to do it. But you can also go and read a lot of blurbs and break down what is it about them that you like. Look at the top authors. I mean, I've said his name before, but Shane Silvers, he writes the funniest blurbs. I go read them. To get in the mood to write a good blurb. Michael Anderle writes very good dramatic blurbs. Craig Martell is very good at the sci-fi. Go read theirs and what is it about it you liked? And how short was it? And did you know the entire book? Or if you were selling a car, would you talk about the doors? Would you talk about how fast the engine went? Or if you're appealing to a different crowd, would you say how comfortable the seats are, that they're made, So when it comes to if I was talking about one of like Pea Brain, I'd be talking about how it's working together. And in this particular book, how she accidentally changed a mouse into a corky, trying to learn how to do magic and can't change it back.
That's great.
So, right. And that really has nothing to do with the plot, but it might pique your interest enough to go find out what's going on. So you have to think about what's the book of you don't want to go so far astray that you're promising something that's not in the book. You don't want to talk romance if there is no romance. But at the same time, don't make it too long. No one needs to know the plot. This is an ad. So it's ad copy. And keep it short. And humor always sells. If you can pull off humor, that's like number one. But, Michael Anderle, drama all along. And his books are doing well, I hear.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to write a blurb where like for movie trailers, you're like, well, that was a great movie. You know, don't write
Right.
that blurb.
Right. You mean where you feel like you saw it and you don't need to go?
Yeah,
Yes.
you watch like a 2-3 minute trailer and you're like, wow, that was actually a really good movie. I guess I'll go see what else is on. You know.
Yeah. And but people who do trailers get paid a ton of money because they know if it's really good, people will go to the movie.
Yep.
And the same can be said of blurbs. So yes, if you've got the budget and you're really not sure, I do think it's worth paying somebody to write your blurbs for you at first. I think you will see better sales because of them. And in reverse, if your sales are sluggish and everyone agrees that your covers are great, it could be those 4 sentences right in front of somebody that's hurting your sales, and changing them, you may suddenly see everything pick up. So it can play that big a part.
Speaking of trailers, have you seen book trailers do well? I think I saw, maybe a year or 2 ago, some people trying book trailers, and they didn't seem to be gaining traction. But I've got a feeling that 2019 might be the year that we see book trailers really hit their stride and be amazing.
We're trying. I've tried a book trailer. It's not easy. It's harder than it looks. But I've seen good ones that were super simple, and you just marvel at them that they pulled this off. So yeah, it's one of those side projects that you keep trying to do, but it's harder than it looks to get the image. Another big author said to me, I've never seen a book trailer that made me want to click. And that's the point of a book trailer. And he's right. It's very hard to make one so compelling. You really have to go click. So I haven't figured that out yet. By the way, when I was a new indie, I got all my friends and we filmed a trailer in the neighborhood. So you can also have fun with it. We actually did pretty well at it. So you can also do that.
Is that on the internet? Can I see that somewhere? I need to see
it. Probably is out there somewhere. I'll have to go see if I ever put it on YouTube, because that would be hilarious.
Everybody go Google Martha Carr and find this trailer.
There's probably
to see it.
Please put in the Keystroke Medium Facebook group. We want to see it.
Okay. I'll go. Yeah, I'll go hunt and find it, because and I think it's my dramatic voice in there, or it might be my son's. Yeah, so it's totally homemade, and my neighbors were the actors in it. I'll go see if I can find it. Yeah, and then you could see if it was halfway decent. I don't know. You could try it. Why not?
I mean, at this day and age, everything's worth a shot. For the most
trailers
part,
are a side project, I think. Trailers are a side project where you kind of keep throwing something at it, or you wait for that right person to come along. And so you just kind of keep it in the back of your mind that you'd like to be able to do this, but I wouldn't make it a priority.
So speaking of asking somebody else to write your blurbs, I do have a quick secondary question on that.
Sure.
What are some points that you should be telling that person so that they don't have to read your entire book in order to be able to write your blurb?
Right.
Great question.
I would tell them the major arc of the particular book they're in, the major arc of the series, and 2 interesting things that happen during the book, like changing a mouse into a corgi. And keep it at that. And you should be able to build a blurb around that. So they need to know the whole arc of the series, because you kind of want to keep that in scope. But what's the major arc of that one particular book? And then 2 interesting things that happen that you would make, if you were talking to your friends, would make them go, oh.
One tip, I've written some blurbs for people, and one thing that really helped me as a blurb writer was to get a blurb, an initial blurb, like a draft from the author. So maybe like a 1-paragraph synopsis even of their book. So I'd take that paragraph, and then I'd go on Amazon and find other blurbs that I really liked that were in the same genre, like model blurbs. And I'd make a document with it all together, and then I'd add copywriter mode. It's almost like slipping into a different character's head. I'm pretending like I'm on Mad Men. Really, I'm pretending like I'm one of the characters on Mad Men. And I type it up, and then I just kind of keep on reworking it. But getting that initial paragraph from the client is so helpful for getting started.
It would be super helpful if it's just a paragraph. You'd really have to stress, I only want a paragraph. Yeah.
Doesn't have to be perfect, just these
Well,
things.
Sometimes when I say, ask somebody about their book, they start from the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yes. And that if you don't stop them, 15 minutes are going to go by. So, I would be real clear, just a paragraph.
And I know Josh is out there somewhere going, Kayleen, because I, once upon a time, have done that. He's like, so what's your story about?
This is where so when somebody asks you, this is actually your opportunity to practice your hook.
Yep.
To see if they respond to it. So if you said your first sentence and they go, but the second or third one is where you keep getting people to light up, then that's the sentence you need to. So when people say, that's your chance to try out your hook, see it as an opportunity.
Good point. Yeah, I like that. So we had a number of questions from the audience ahead of time. So we'll, I guess, skip to those now.
Sure.
Guy Anthony DeMarco asks, what do you think about author cooperatives, groups of writers working together for marketing purposes or for other reasons, and how to assemble one?
Well, 20 Books is an example of a mega marketing group. But again, back to what I was saying about traditional publishing authors. We spent so much money on marketing things that did not work, that if we could only have talked to each other, I think only one of us would have made that error. And also, when something was working, none of the rest of us knew it. And I don't think it was because any of us were trying to keep anything from each other. We didn't know any better. So I think a cooperative is a great idea because also, if I'm saying, I'm thinking of doing this, and somebody else who doesn't have a dog in that race is going to ask questions I wouldn't have thought to ask. And I might, before I spend the money, they may say, well, did you check out this item or did you ask them about this? And I can go back with a much stronger list of questions and it's going to be a better experience. So I think cooperatives, I've done it as a traditional and as an indie, and in a cooperative is so much more fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. And they're cheering you on, and it's just a lot more fun. And they're making fun of you, and, they become like your brothers and sisters.
Right. C.S. Lewis had his Inklings group down at the tavern, at the pub. We have Facebook. So
we have Facebook. Well, and if you show up in Las Vegas in November, you have that too.
Yes.
I recognize everybody by their tiny circle face.
Yeah, exactly. In the chat, speaking of everybody, James Burwell says, Brian Meeks has a Facebook group on Amazon descriptions, lots of great info and help. Yeah. Yes. It's Amazon descriptions for authors, I think is the Facebook group name, and then there's on ads on Facebook, and Indie Cover Collective, I believe. Indie Cover Project.
There's a few indie covers that are really good, and I know there's even one for just urban fantasy, if that's your thing. I'm sure there's one for romance, and people are pretty cool about it. I mean, even if they really don't like your cover, they're pretty polite about the way they're trying to say, I think it might be better if you tried this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, another good question we had was from Anna Johnson. She says, I would love her insights into world building and maintaining the integrity of that world as new authors get involved. I would also like to know what told her that going from thrillers to fantasy was the right move for her, and whether there were any challenges, perhaps in your craft, perhaps in your process, in making the switch from thrillers to fantasy.
So I switched from thrillers to urban fantasy, and it's urban fantasy, which is very different from fantasy, we found out, because Michael said, do you want to write something in urban fantasy? So that's how that happened. And it just turned out that I was actually probably better suited for urban fantasy all along than I was thriller. So who knew? Right. And in terms of building a universe, I keep a lot of notes, and they just get longer and longer and spread out more. And I have a reading group that sometimes remembers things better than I do. And it takes a village. The bigger the universe gets, the bigger the village has to be, because the details get so complicated and minute. And and I have lots of writers in here. And also I pay attention to when they want to do something new, does it fit the universe or will it complicate things too much? And then their new thing has to be incorporated and communicated out to the other author. So for example, somebody came up with anti-magic bullets. Well, and it works. Sounds goofy when I say it here, but it works. But now every other author who's writing in the universe needs to know that these exist. And and they need to know, are they easy to get? Are they expensive? How do you get them? Are they regulated? Because you have to think about, since we're urban fantasy, it has to fit into like Earth. I mean, Earth as we created it. And so we have to make it logical in terms of the world we've already created. But the more you do it, the harder it gets. And so sometimes if we bring in a new author, we try to find Michael and I and Ora Saren, try to find a story that isn't so embedded in the original characters that they would have to learn everything. Or we have an author, T.R. Cameron, who's really rocking it with his Federal Agents of Magic. It's been every one of them is a bestseller and hanging in bestseller. He was a huge fan of Ora Saren and had read everything. And so he was really soaked in Ora Saren lore. And so his ability to step into the middle of it was super easy. So, and we found him because the fans wanted to do Fans Write for Fans book. So if you're building a universe, I suggest that you think about that too, letting the fans do an anthology. Nice. And because you may find some new writers for your universe. Also, if I had it to do over again, and I do because I'm doing P-Brain, when you start a universe, write the first series first before you start inviting others in, so that you can really set the rules down, so that you understand what's going on. We didn't do that. We had 5 authors running simultaneously when we started.
Ooh,
it was like a wild, wild west. It was fun. Yeah. I wouldn't do it again, but it was a lot of fun.
It would be hard to keep all the details straight, I'd imagine.
We had an online thing we were using where you could go and check the information, and it was still hard. And so it required...
So you had a universe Bible?
Yes, but it still required me to go behind people and say, nope, there's 2 moons on Ora Saren. Or nope, you can't put that there. There's an ocean there. And so if you're building a universe too, understand you've just become a project manager. And so you're going to be doing your own work and all of the rest. And it's work. I love it. I mean, clearly I'm still doing it. But just understand, if you're a pantser, this may not go well.
Oh, that's good advice. So what does your universe Bible look like really quickly? Is it a Google Doc and outline?
So there are lots of Google Docs. We gave up on the fancy software. It was too complicated for us to figure out how to use. It would have been really good if one of us was smart enough to know how to do it. But so we use lots of Google Docs, and then we have a team of people who've read in Ora Saren for so long that they know all the details.
Lore masters.
Yes, and take good care of them. Take good care of them. So that, yeah.
Oh my goodness, you have such a flush of all the things. Did you have a last question, Lauren? Craig.
I was just going to say that in Galaxy's Edge, we have a universe Bible that the editing team has. But we also have fans that put the wiki together and put in the same a huge amount of work for the wiki that's up on. And they did that for free just for the love. So be surprised at what the fans will do just to be able to give back to you, the author, a little bit. They loved your work so much. You've given them such a great gift, and they really would love to have a little bit of ownership in the series, and would love to do something for you just for the chance to give you something.
And to that, I would also mention that be active in your own Facebook group for the very same reason, and give so that they can interact with you. And like in Sarin, a fan started the map of the world where you can pin where you live. And yeah, and people love doing that. Little things like that. I mail out stickers all the time of the Troll YTT or of the new covers, and it's a way to get an autograph. But little things like that really mean a lot. If you can, keep your engagement in your group high. Drop by, say hello daily, even if it's just for a minute. You know, you have a day job. By the way, I just quit my day job March 1st because I was having a hard time letting go.
Yeah.
And so I know what it's like to do 2 full-time jobs, basically. But you can find time, like during lunch, to just drop in and make a comment and just kind of say hello. So keep the engagement high. And now, too, you can find, if you see people online who you love their posts all the time, not an author, or maybe, anyway, just a human whose post you really love, who you know, ask them if you paid them $10 an hour, would they set up a lot of scheduled posts for you, so that, because those posts can be humorous, and you can give them, like, I like dogs, I like Peanuts cartoons, I like baby animals, whatever your list is, and I write urban fantasy, and then they can kind of beef it out for you so that there's a lot of posts going on, and then you fill in with the more personal.
Oh, I really like that idea. That's good. That's a well-used $10.
Yeah,
exactly. And you may be talking about spending $30 or $40 a month, and suddenly you've got constant contact. And one thing I've noticed is the authors who really do that tend to become the ones who sell well.
So definitely have a presence in whichever social media like you prefer, you like. Definitely have that presence. Keep it going. Don't fall silent.
Well, Facebook group in particular too is where the fans can post back to you, and it's private. And Facebook has said they're going to promote groups more than pages now, and so I just suggest a Facebook group. It's an easy place for everybody to come and share, and it's amazing what people say in there and how they support each other all the time.
Yeah, the Facebook, I probably spend more time in Facebook groups than I do just in the normal scroll. So we are at the end, a little bit over, but do you have any last minute tips for building your production team? If not, where can people find you?
You can find me in Martha Carr Fans. That's the Facebook group. You can find me there all the time. And when I also have a person, Grace, who does admin, and boy, is she great, because she makes sure that a lot of the things get done that I just don't have time for anymore. So having an admin, I think, is like one of those things that becomes crucial quickly. And then create a central place where, like Slack, where people can communicate more easily with each other and in groups. Look and see if you can start to afford Slack, or when you're doing this budget, you can do a future budget. When it gets here, then I can do this, so that you know, as this comes up, I'm going to go do that. And it gives you something to shoot for as well. But also, please make sure you're having fun. And that the fun doesn't get away from you, and do your best not to compare yourself to anybody else. This is really my dream. And so am I happy? Have I gotten somewhere where I want to be? And does it still fit with the dream that I have? Try and not get, it's so much fun to watch people post, look what I did, but don't take it on as a personal challenge. Because that could really sour the joy you're having in this. So that would be what I would leave with you. Please have fun. And I do answer questions, so you can also ask me questions, and I actually will answer you.
There you go. And those are great words to leave it. Have fun. Be serious about it, but don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Martha. We love having you.
Thanks for asking me. It was a lot of fun.
Great.
Yeah. So many things to think about and keep in mind. And to everyone in the live chat, thank you for coming, hanging out with us. Let us know what you thought about the show in the comments, and show your support with a thumbs up, the subscribe button, and the little bell. Got to hit the little bell so you always know when we've got more shows going on. For Lauren Moore, I am Kayleen Williams, and thank you for joining us on your writer's journey. We'll see you next week, actually. Talk about some reading, writing, and everything in between right here on